There's a number of them in the courtroom.
Yeah, I think they're all in the courtroom.
Which means they're spread all over the entire courtroom.
Okay, good evening.
Hi, Bob and I.
Good evening, everybody. It is July 23rd, 2020. Welcome to the Township of Hillsborough Planning and Zoning Department meeting. This meeting will be conducted virtually. The public will be given an opportunity to participate remotely through the advertised Zoom link or optional phone number identified in the public meeting notice. Application documents have been made available at http://hillsboroughNJ.civicclerk.com in accordance with the public meeting notice. Applicants will be presenting remotely and will identify themselves before testifying. Would you all please join me in a salute to the flag?
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
This meeting has been duly advertised according to Section 5 of the Open Public Meetings Act, Chapter 231, Public Law 1975, also known as the Sunshine Law. Notice of the 2020 annual meeting schedule has been provided to the officially designated newspapers, the Township Clerk, posted on the bulletin board at the Hillsborough Township Municipal Complex, and posted to the Township's website. Additional notice has been provided to communicate that this meeting is being conducted according to the governor's executive order and pursuant to PL 2020, C-11, which allows for meetings to be conducted electronically. Have a roll call, please.
Mr. Siracchio. Absent. Mr. Peasley. Absent. Mr. Centro. Absent. Mr. Ciccarelli. Absent. Mr. Wagner.
Here.
Mr. Scobo.
Here.
Mr. Emmett.
Here.
Mr. Hestad.
Here.
Mr. Delcor.
Here.
Mr. Lapani.
Here.
And Acting Chairman Julian.
Here.
Mr. Euro is present. Mr. Maskey.
Yes.
Mr. Bernstein.
Yes.
Fred Kinsler, you're there?
Yes.
Okay, did I forget anybody? Good. And I'm here. Oh, I'm here.
We're glad to have you.
I know.
Next up on the agenda would be the Hillsborough Township Planning Board public meeting minutes from July 9th, 2020. If everyone wants to take a minute and just look at them, and then have a motion for approval after that.
I'll make a motion.
Who's that?
Sean. Scobo will second it.
Did you get that, Tina?
Yes.
Okay. Okay, can I have a roll call on the meeting minutes for approval of the meeting minutes?
Yes, Mr. Wagner?
Yes.
Mr. Scobo?
Scobo.
Okay, Mr. Emmett?
Yes.
Mr. Hashtag?
Yes.
Mr. Delcor?
Yes.
Mr. Lapani?
Yes.
Mr. Julian?
Yes. Next up on the agenda would be consideration of resolution, which would be the County of Somerset / Balo, file 20-PB-06-SV. Mr. Bernstein, you want to tell us about this?
This resolution is to adopt what the board agreed to, which was an acquisition application brought by the county at the July 9th meeting, and this would ratify. Mr. Chairman, as the list of the eligible members as provided to her.
Who do you say does, Tina?
Tina does.
Okay, if not,
Mr. Julian.
Oh, we have to make a motion first.
Somebody needs a,
okay, can I have a motion to approve Resolution 20-PB-06-SV?
Yeah, I'll make the motion. Ken Hestag.
All right, Scobell second it.
So I have eligible members here that would be eligible to vote would be myself, Committeeman Delcor, Mr. Wagner, Deputy Mayor Lapani, Mr. Pease's not here, right? Mr. Santarina, Mr. Scobo, and Mr. Hashtag. So you want to go down the roll call for that then, please?
Yeah. Mr. Julian?
Yes.
Mr. Delcor?
Yes.
Mr. Wagner?
Yes.
Mr. Lapani?
Yes.
Mr. Scobo?
Yes.
Mr. Hestag?
Yes.
Okay, the resolution is approved. Next up on the agenda would be any business from the floor for matters not on the agenda.
So if the public wants to make a comment or has a question on something that's not on the agenda, please raise your hand. I see none, Chairman, so you can proceed.
Okay, then we will proceed. The next on the agenda would be the application, which is the Somerset County Improvements Authority for the solar field, file 20-PB-11 INF. Mr. Bernstein, you want to say something about this, or Mr. Maskey?
I'll at least start off, Mr. Chairman. Representatives of the applicant are here this evening. I believe they're represented by Peck. Mr. Peck will introduce himself in a moment. But for purposes of the record, the current property owner is the Somerset Improvement Authority. On file provided to the planning board was a letter from William Cooper, Esquire, the attorney for the Improvement Authority, indicating that Mr. Peck and his clients have the authority to handle this application and to bring it before this board. I also believe, and Mr. Peck can correct me, is that his witnesses have all sworn the affidavit of oath that the board has provided to applicants and counsel. And I see him nodding his head, and I believe the last one came in with about the last hour. But all of those individuals this is an application for a ground-mounted solar array on what is known as the Hillsborough property site, which is a piece of land located between Ann Van Middlesworth Park and Mountain View Park. And I will leave the rest, unless Mr. Maskey has any comments, Mr. Chairman, to Mr. Peck and his clients.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Bernstein. Mr. Peck, would you like to go ahead, please?
Yes, thank you very much.
Mr. Chairman.
For the record, my name is Mark Peck. I'm an attorney with the Florio Perucci Law Firm, here on behalf of the Somerset County Improvement Authority.
Mr. Peck, I don't mean
yes,
to
sir.
interrupt, but let me, on the chance I get to interrupt people. For the purposes of the record, this is the Somerset County Improvement Authority Solar Facility, file number 20-PB-11-INF, block 175, lot 39.02 on Mountain View Road. Applicant is seeking review of a proposed ground-mounted solar facility on approximately 80 acres of property in the ED Economic Development District in accordance with section 188-76 paren 5, paren B, paren of Township's Land Use and Development Ordinance regarding solar energy systems. The county is required to refer their plan to the Township Planning Board for review and recommendation pursuant to the terms of the Municipal Land Use Law, MLUL, at NJSA 40:55D-31. The MLUL in turn states that the county shall refer the project to the planning board for review and recommendation and shall not act with such recommendations. Sorry, Mr. Peck.
No problem whatsoever. Thank you. Now that Mr. Bernstein has co-opted a large part of what I have in my notes in front of me, I'll be even more brief than I had intended. As he indicated, this is what's known as a courtesy review. So it's neither fish nor fowl. It's not a formal application and no vote needs to be taken, but this is intended for when a government agency or entity on the municipal or county level wishes to locate some capital improvement, they are obligated to present it to the appropriate planning board for board and public review and comment. So that's what we're doing here tonight. As Mr. Bernstein indicated, this is for property located on Mountain View Road here in the township, block 175, lot 39.02. It's a 296.9 acre parcel in the Economic Development or ED zone. It's currently vacant. It's part of the former Belmead Army Depot, which was vacated by the government in 1991. It's considered a brownfield and it has undergone significant remediation since. As Mr. Bernstein indicated, we're looking to have a ground-mounted solar array.
Mr. Peck?
Yes, sir.
Mr. Maskey had a question.
Hi, Mr. Peck.
Yeah.
This is Dave Maskey. I have the slideshow up on the screen and I will control it for you. So can you see the slides?
I can, thank you.
Okay, so when you want me to advance them, just let me know and I'll advance it.
I will.
I need about 30 more seconds.
Okay,
and
thank you.
then we'll put our engineer on.
And
Great.
he'll take over and do the slideshow.
review.
So the Improvement Authority proposed installing a 24.34 megawatt ground-mounted solar facility on approximately 80 acres of that site. It'll be 57,960 panels. There's about 9/10 of an acre of total disturbed area, most of which comes from grading and installation of a gravel access road throughout the site. There's no noise glare once the system is completed. There's going to be no nuisance conditions such as noise, glare, odor, trash, or traffic. There is an existing landscape buffer between the site and the existing residential properties to the east, but that'll be screened by the county. Any deficiencies in that screening will be supplemented. We have tonight our engineer, Trevor Taylor from CME Associates. He'll lead you through the actual project. And to the extent there's any questions that I can't answer or Trevor can answer, we have Frank McClenahan from the solar contractor. They're both sworn, but we're not proposing any formal testimony from Frank. So without any further ado, I'd like to call Trevor Taylor.
Thank you, Mr. Peck.
Mr. Taylor, for purpose of the record, can you give us your full name, spell your last, and indicate your professional qualifications, please?
Sure. It's Trevor Taylor, Taylor, from the company CME Associates. I have a Bachelor of Science in Civil Engineering from Lehigh University, and I've been a professional engineer in the state of New Jersey since 2004.
Have you appeared before planning and/or zoning boards before?
I have, yes.
Have you appeared before this board?
I have not appeared in front of Hillsborough Township before. I've appeared in several municipalities throughout the state of New Jersey.
Mr. Chairman, what's the pleasure of the board relative to Mr. Taylor's qualifications?
We will accept his qualifications.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Mr. Massey, please forward to the second slide. Thank you.
Dear Trevor, why don't you describe the existing conditions at the property?
Sure. Actually, the next slide, Mr. Maskey, if you could forward one more slide, is the tax map of the property. The property is block 175, lot 39.02. It has a small frontage on Anwell Road to the west, and also a small frontage on Mountain View. Correct. The next, you can forward to the next slide, please, Mr. Maskey. This is an aerial of the site. You can see Mountain View Park to the south of the property, along with the Apex Sports Complex, which is under construction, to the southeast property. To the north of the property is Anne Van Middleworth Park. That was completed recently by the Township. And to the east of the property is block 175, lot 39.01, which is owned by the Middlesex County Improvement Authority.
Do you mean Somerset County?
I'm sorry, Somerset County Improvement Authority, correct.
Okay, and what's currently on the site?
So currently the site is vacant. As indicated previously, it was the former Bellmead Depot property, which has undergone extensive environmental cleanup over the last several years. We are looking to develop approximately 80 acres of that overall parcel into the solar facility.
And is this consistent with the municipal ordinances governing ground-mounted solar facilities?
It is. The Township Ordinance Section 188-76A 5B, as in boy, indicates that solar energy systems are a permitted use on all publicly owned properties, with a requirement that a minimum 50-foot wide landscape buffer be provided from the ground-mounted system to any property line. I will discuss that buffer requirement later in my testimony.
Okay, great. So what's the Improvement Authority proposing to do on this property?
So the ground-mounted solar array is proposed to be, again, in 80 acres to the property. They're proposed to be installed a minimum of 100 foot from all the property lines to meet the proposed yard setbacks in the ED zone. The solar panels are approximately 9 feet tall and will be set 3 feet off the ground for an overall height of 12 feet off the ground. This will allow for access under the panels, for maintenance of the vegetation under the panels. And the panels will be installed on C channels. They're essentially almost like fence posts that get installed into the ground to support the solar panels. And these C channels will limit the increase of impervious coverage and also limit the amount of disturbance required for the installation of the panels. There is an existing gravel roadway that provides access to the site. There's several environmentally sensitive areas that are located in other areas of the property that are not being disturbed. And there's several drainage wells throughout the property that are going to remain in place to handle the stormwater that's associated with the existing land cover. In addition to the solar arrays, there's going to be several equipment pads, which are indicated on our site plans as solar generator equipment, which are going to be installed adjacent to each of the arrays. This equipment is indicated on the 7 individual site plan sheets of our plan set, and they include switch gears, transformers, inverters, and data systems that support the solar panels. There will also be a series of 5 above ground utility poles installed along the main access drive adjacent to Mountain View Drive. This is indicated on sheet 11 of 14 of our plan set. These poles are proposed for the conversion from the overhead transmission wires to the underground solar array. These poles include various purposes, including a junction switch, a utility-owned switch pole, a metering pole, and a riser pole. This is, again, to convert the overhead wires that are along the road to an underground wire to get to the solar array. So after the last pole from the road, there is no above ground wiring proposed as part of the project. Everything will be underground. And these utility poles are standard wooden poles that you would see along the roadway. They're approximately 40 feet in height. And there are no other utilities proposed to be extended for the project.
Okay, excuse me. Hey, Mr. Maskey, could you move to slide number 6, please? Might give a little better definition of the project.
How's that, Mr. Peck?
That's very good.
Thank you.
Thank you for that. As you can see on the site plan, there is a gravel access road that is extended from Mountain View Drive. That gravel road is going to be maintained. It will be utilized for construction. We're also proposing 2 new 10-foot wide gravel access roads that will be constructed in the north-south direction, which will provide access to the arrays. The entire array will also be enclosed within an 8-foot high chain link fence. The access to the arrays will only be from the secured gate on Mountain View Road. And we will be providing a new gate there that will be secured with a lock to prohibit access from anyone but the solar panel owners. There is no parking required for the project, as the site will not be permanently manned. The only people that will get into the gate will be the employees for maintenance. And again, the maintenance will be about once a month to cut the grass and to do any maintenance on the panels and the equipment within the gate. We are looking at, again, a new gate on Mountain View Road. We're going to put the gate approximately 100 feet off the road to allow for utility trucks to access the utility poles without accessing a lock. And this will also allow emergency vehicles to pull off of Mountain View Road to get into the site before they have to access the lock. We will also provide a Knox padlock on the lock in order to allow emergency vehicles to access the site if there is ever an emergency within the fence.
Is the applicant proposing any lighting or signage for this project?
No, there is no signage or lighting proposed within the project.
How about any other of the nuisance type categories, such as odor or glare or noise, when this system is installed and operational?
There will be no noise, no glare, no other detriments to the environment proposed by the project.
Very good.
As far as maintenance, again, there are no full-time employees required to operate the site on a day-to-day basis. Maintenance will be performed on approximately a monthly basis to mow the grass and perform the other standard maintenance work. This work will be done with either a bucket truck if they need to access anything on the utility poles, or just with pickup trucks to access the site.
Okay, how about, is this going to have any impacts on runoff or drainage?
So again, the only impervious coverage is the small C channels that are proposed with the solar panels. There's also the gravel access roads that provide a slight increase in the runoff. It's my opinion that based on this minor increase in runoff, that there is no detrimental impact to the properties based on the increase in runoff. We're not going to be affecting the existing drainage swales that allow the runoff to drain from one side of the property, basically from the west side of the property to the east side of the property. And we are not impacting any environmentally sensitive areas that would be under the jurisdiction of the DEP.
And how about landscaping? Will this be visible from the roadway or other locations?
Because of the distance from the roadway, the panels will not be visible from the roadway. Mr. Maskey, if you could please forward to the next slide. So we are proposing, this is looking east from the solar array to the existing residential properties. There was a 50-foot wide landscape buffer that was installed as part of the remediation project. We are going to be supplementing that buffer with additional trees, including shade trees, ornamental trees, and evergreen trees. We will, work with the township in order to finalize that buffer as far as the plant names and the spacing, et cetera. But it is our intent to provide additional buffering to those residential properties. Mr. Maskey, if you could please move to the next slide. So we have a series of pictures that were taken of the site back in the fall. You can see here, the first slide is looking to the southeast. The residential properties are on the left. The Apex construction, or the Apex Recreation Complex, is straight ahead, which was under construction at the time. And then the Mountain View Park is to the right of the screen. You can see there is an existing tree line between Mountain View Park and the solar field. That's up against the existing fence that separates the two properties. Although it's not on our plan, the county will be supplementing that buffer with additional planting so that we meet that 50-foot buffer requirement that's required by the ordinance. And if you could please move to the next slide, Mr. Maskey. This slide shows that single row of vegetation between the park and the solar field. Again, this will be supplemented with additional plantings in order to meet the intent of the ordinance. The next slide is looking towards the west. That's looking towards lot 39.01. That again is owned by Middlesex County, by Somerset County Improvement Authority. As you can see, there's extensive vegetation in that area, so we do not propose any landscaping within that area. And the last slide is looking to the north. There's about 750 feet between the northern property line and the solar arrays, which is heavily wooded. It's also an environmentally sensitive area throughout most of this area, and we are not proposing to remove any of the trees. So we are proposing that this existing buffer is adequate to meet the 50-foot buffer requirement to meet the intent of the ordinance.
Great. Now, we did receive some review memos in connection with this project. First, Mr. Maskey's memo of July 15th. Do we have any problems with any of his comments therein? We've addressed the 50-foot landscape buffer. I believe you testified that there were going to be the utility poles at the Mountain View Road entrance. Did you indicate the purpose and height of those poles?
Yes.
Okay, I know you spoke about that. And the remainder of his memo, is there anything that needs to be discussed?
Just one item, the item 3.5. It was asked whether the 8-foot fence will be buffered or screened from view in any way. Due to the fact that we're proposing the buffering around the perimeter of the site, we are not proposing any buffering adjacent to the 8-foot high fence.
Okay, thanks. And then the Fire Marshal, Christopher Weniger, on July 20, sent a memo, and his comments were vegetation under and around the solar panels must be controlled and be maintained to a safe height. So this would be covered, I take it, by the routine maintenance that you testified before, which would include mowing.
Correct.
And the gates into the solar field, you did testify there would be a Knox padlock, and that will be wide enough to allow fire apparatus to enter the site, correct?
Correct. We'll make sure that that gate is wide enough to allow any emergency vehicles into the site.
Very good. And then finally, we have Mr. Euro's review memo of July 22. Are there any comments you'd like to make in connection with that memo?
Nope, we can meet all the conditions in this memo. I'll work with Mr. Euro on the stormwater management questions. We'll make sure that we get that revised in accordance with his approval, according with his comments, and I think everything else we've addressed in our testimony.
Great, we're not going to need a generator for this project, correct?
That's correct. There's no generator proposed for the project. I know we did call out the generator equipment, but that was as discussed in testimony for the equipment to be associated with the solar arrays. There is no generator required.
Great, thank you very much, Trevor.
Mr.
I think it
Taylor,
would be
this is
appropriate now to
Mr.
see
Euro?
if the board or professionals or its professionals have questions.
Yes.
Thank you,
Mr. Euro?
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Taylor. I have a few questions.
I think Bob Euro professional wants to talk.
Bob, are you talking?
Yes,
I'm sorry. Go ahead.
I'm sorry. I just have one question for Mr. Taylor. Are there any outside agency approvals required, i.e. DNR canal or soil conservation?
Yes, we have submitted applications to the DNR Canal Commission. We submitted a jurisdiction determination to them, and we have submitted an application to the Somerset Union Soil Conservation District. So those applications are pending.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Euro. Those were two topics I had on my notes also. I made some notes from the environmental impact statement that I just wanted to go over briefly. So Mr. Euro mentioned the DNR report, right? And also the soil and sediment, which I guess after reading the EIS, I just wanted to make sure the soil piles are not near any of the residents.
Yes, Zach, there will be very minimal soil movement out there with the proposed improvements. Essentially, the C-channel posts are very small in diameter and they get driven right into the soil, and there will be very limited soil stockpiles as part of the project.
Okay, thank you for that. I know the gravel that you were talking about is on the road. That's not under the panels, correct?
Correct.
Okay. Also, I know you mentioned the fact that there's not going to be any trees that are going to be taken down. So there's no issues with bats. It's all grass. We talked about DNR. Now there was, I know there were wetlands, but I don't believe it's on the footprint of what you're proposing. Because I know that there was an LOI in 2010 and 2015, which extends to 2020, but the wetlands are not an issue in terms of this project, correct?
Correct. We do have the previously approved LOI. We ensured that all the proposed solar panels are out of any wetlands.
Yeah, because that was not on any of the drawings, but I know looking at the EIS, it didn't mention the wetlands. And we talked about, we talked about noise, we talked about glare. Solar arrays. I think that was all the notes or questions I had after reading the EIS. Does anybody on the board have any questions? Mr. Hestag?
Yeah, Ken Hestag, would there be any notable impacts on wildlife at all? Not that there is much there, but there's no trees impact, but any wildlife?
Yeah, no, again, disturbance with the installation of the solar panels is very minimal, and they're proposed within grass. There'll be basically no impact.
Thank you.
Mr. Amick, do you have anything?
I have two quick questions. Can you confirm if the solar array panels are going to be placed on the berms, or are they just at the base of the berms, but not up on the slopes?
So is it a berm, the large meadows, or
Could you repeat that, Mr. Taylor? I don't think we heard.
sure? The berm question, the large berm out there? Or,
Yeah, that's
Trevor's
correct.
breaking up.
sorry. No, we will not be playing.
Trevor, this is Fred. Can you get closer to your mic, Trevor? We're having a hard time hearing you again.
Sure, I'm sorry.
Thank you.
There are no solar panels to be planted on the berms.
Thank you. And then this one, my next question is regarding like pedestrian circulation and Anvan Park to the north and Mountain View to the south. Does this project preclude any future circulation like through that area? Does the township has any motivation in the future to connect those two parks? And would this preclude that? Is it worth considering? Because I know kids cut across the field today.
I am not aware of
the
properties.
Trevor is has though. Somebody has to mute themselves.
Yeah.
So,
That's a question for somebody.
so, I had a very similar question. So this is Frank Delquar. Let me maybe ask it. So I'm trying to understand the designation of the layout of where you've placed the plant panels, because Mr. Emick raises a good point in that eventually, there would be a desire to try to connect some of that. And my understanding was that it might be, the original plan was more shifted to the west. And I'm trying to understand a little bit about the designation of trying to maximize the footprint and why this area was chosen.
So maybe I can see the aerials back up on the screen. So if you're looking at the aerial, the area to the west is substantially within the woods. There's a lot of environmentally sensitive areas in there, which would preclude the installation of the solar panels within that area. So if you look within the red of the property line, the red line, which is the property line, the open areas are the areas to the west. The areas to the east, as opposed to the areas to the west, where there is a lot of environmentally sensitive areas. So that's why the east side of the property was chosen as opposed to the west side of the property.
Let him unmute. Go ahead.
So if I'm looking at the aerial map there, as you see it, so the areas that are green are still environmentally sensitive, that would preclude some of the panels from going there?
Yes, there's a tributary of the Royce Brook that goes through that property. And there's also some wetland areas that are also located within that, the wooded area.
Does anybody else have any questions?
Yeah, I just think my point is if it's time to consider, again, having that circulation element, as long as we're not precluding it. I mean, I don't know what the township's master plan goals are about connecting that, but it should be considered, because I think kids are gonna cut through.
Deputy Mayor Lapani, just have a couple questions, and maybe the engineer or possibly the contractor can answer these questions. with respect to the construction and especially the driving of the piles for the array, is there a specific time they want to do this? And B, what is the estimated time frame to do that? Is obviously driving piles can create some noise. I didn't know if they've considered doing twist screws as far on piles instead of pounding them in the ground, or can you answer to that question?
Trevor, are you able to answer that, or is that more appropriately for Frank?
I believe that would be more appropriately answered by Frank as far as the construction technique.
Okay, I'd like to call Mr. Frank McClenaghan.
Good
Mr.
evening.
McClenaghan, you've been previously sworn in. Could you spell your last name and indicate by whom you're employed and what your position is?
Yes, my last name is spelled MCCLENEGHEN. I'm the president of Active Solar Development.
Okay, and Frank, you are the you're the contractor for this project?
I am.
So you've been involved with the design and you'll be involved with the installation?
That is correct.
Okay, did you just hear the questions that were just posed?
I did.
Are you able to answer?
Typically, post-driving is done during the daytime hours. Twist screws have a little more disturbance than a pounded post, also more expensive. We have not done geotechnical studies on this yet, but with the distance we are to the residential properties and the buffering, I don't think the daytime noise is going to be any more than residential construction, which you probably had on Apex as that was being built. Does that answer your question?
And how long do you anticipate that part of the project to last?
For project this size, I would expect 60 days of post pounding, in 5 days a week.
How deep do the posts need to go on the ground?
Typical embedments are anywhere from 6 feet to 8 feet.
And I'll just say this because I'm a local kid. We obviously have a pretty substantial shale base in this part of the state. Have you done testing to see that pounding is possible to go that deep?
We have not done geotechnical testing. We do have some data from the brownfield mitigation, and we will do pull tests when we have approvals. And if we need to switch to a screw, we'll switch to a screw, and we'll let you know. We're also able to drill and
You're also able to what?
we have a machine which is drilled with a pounder, and we're able to use the two.
You'll have to do obviously a final test before you know exactly what you're doing, but it's not out of the realm that you may have to do some areas possibly that are screw and some that you can drive.
That would be a good assumption.
Thank you.
And this is Frank Delco. When theoretically would that commence?
We still have to get through an interconnection process, so it's hard to say. I'm thinking, realistically, construction on this project is late Q4, early Q1 of 2021. Late Q4 2020, early Q1 of 2021.
Anybody else have any? Does anybody, I'm sorry, Mr. Peck, I guess you said winter time?
Yeah. Frank, is that what you're saying? That the construction would be anticipated?
Yes.
there's the interconnection process is can be intense. So I think winter time is a best estimate at this point.
Okay, thank you for that testimony.
This is Frank Delcor again. I'd just like to revisit the placement. Is there any other modeling that's been done of the panel placement to provide some type of pathway, or is there, and I know we've done and seen some on things like the landfill pile, is some of that even the base area usable?
I'd have to take a look at I know there's a number of obviously materials that are buried within that pile. I'm not sure if that's suitable for the post, to support the post. It's something that we could take a look at, though.
Yeah, if possible, I would certainly like I'd like to see if there's some way to reconfigure to just allow us some type of access between those facilities. It certainly, long-term is the right thing to do, and I think that the county parks would agree with that.
You're talking about the two park.
Yeah.
I'm sorry. You're talking about the two parks, right? Mountain View Park and Township Park.
Mr. Maskey, do you have anything?
Nothing to add.
Euro, anything else, or?
Nothing else.
Open to public.
Okay, at this time, I guess we need to make a motion to open it to public.
It's Frank Delcor, I'll move.
Bonnie, second.
All in favor? Aye. Okay, so we will open it to public at this stage.
At this time, if anybody from the public has a question, please raise your hand and we'll answer you in the order that they appear. Please state your name and address for the record when you're asked to unmute. Okay, I see Susan Gulliford. I'm going to ask you to, state your name and address and your question, please.
Susan, Gordon Club Road. Okay, first, why are the panels only installed over fields? Why can't the solar panels be installed over already paved areas such as the parking lots?
Go ahead, Frank. It's a different lot.
Currently, there are no parking within the lot in question.
And it is a current brownfield.
Okay, thank you. What's the lifespan of the solar panels? How long would they be expected to last?
I think that might be better for Frank. The lifespan of the
Sure.
solar panels.
Typical lifespan of a solar panel is 30 to 35 years.
Okay, who specifically would be using the power produced from this field?
This is a community solar array. So it's sold to the community.
Okay, so you're talking about individuals, or not the township, but individual homeowners?
It'll be a mix of commercial and residential homeowners.
Okay, aside from the fence and the locked gate that you mentioned earlier, what other security is provided, like fire alarms, fire suppression, warning of entry, like kids cutting the fences, things like that?
The only proposed item right now are the 8-foot high chain link fence that goes around the array, as well as the one gate to get into the site.
Okay, that's it. Thank you.
Okay, if there's no other comments, I'd like to make a motion to close to the public.
Frank Delcourt, so moved.
Mayor LaPlante, second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, we are closed to the public. Okay, if nobody has any other comments, Mr. Bernstein, you want to take it from here?
I will point out, Mr. Chairman, that this is a unique application before the board. It is not a requirement of the board to formally approve the application. Ostensibly, what we're asking for is a sense of the board as to what has been proposed. A resolution would follow, basically establishing that. This is in accordance with the concept of the informal, as well as the township code and the municipal land use law related to this project, which is being conducted by a public entity. So the motion would be to approve, the motion would be to concur with the application brought by Active Solar, actually brought by the Somerset County Improvement Authority in conjunction with Active Solar for the placement of a ground-mounted solar array on the property previously described.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Byrne. Mr. Maskey?
Would the board like to add anything to their comments regarding the potential for some connection between the two parks?
Absolutely.
I think so.
Yeah, I'd like to just reiterate that point. One of to, see if there are any other options for reconfiguring the panel locations to allow some type of an eventual pathway. So I would like to see if that's possible and if there's a way that could be shared with the board and the township. Frank Delcourt, sorry.
Sorry.
Yeah.
Bridge, tunnel.
How would that work, Mr. Bernstein?
Could add it in as part of the concurrence, and we put it in the resolution that the board would request that the applicant, that the improvement authority endeavor to place some kind of possible access point between Ann Van Middlesworth Park and Mountain View Park to the extent it does not interfere with the applicant's solar array.
Okay, so should we make a motion with that being said?
Yes.
Okay, so I would need a motion for the concurrence of the application then?
With the caveats.
Scobo will make that motion.
With the caveats.
With the caveats. You want to go over that, Mr. Bernstein, or?
The motion again, Chairman, is to concur with the application of the Somerset County Improvement Authority in conjunction with Active Solar for the placement of a ground-mounted solar array on block 175, lot 39.02. I believe that is the correct block and lot for a ground-mounted solar facility, and to endeavor to provide a potential access point in the future between Ann Van Middlesworth Park and Mountain View Park, so long as it doesn't interfere with the applicant's ground-mounted solar facility.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Bernstein. So may I have a motion to concur
Scope will make that motion.
You have a second?
Bob Wagner will second.
Okay, may I have a roll call, please?
Mr. Wagner,
Yes.
Mr. Scopo,
Yes.
Mr. Emmett,
Yes.
Mr. Hestag,
Yes.
Mr. Delcor,
Yes.
Mr. LaPont,
Yes.
Acting Chairman Gilligan.
Yes. Okay, thank you, Mr. Peck and all your professionals.
Thank you very much. Have a good evening, boys.
You too. So I guess at this time, we need a, well, let's just go over this before we adjourn. In August, there's no meetings. I guess the next meeting would be September 3rd and then September 10th. Is that right, Mr. Maskey?
Yes, Mr. Chairman.
God bless.
Right now, September 3rd, we have nothing on the agenda. We do have a site plan on for September 10th.
All right, so just everybody, if you could just keep
You want
the board
to
informed.
cancel the September 3rd meeting now or wait?
Wait.
Yeah, I say wait.
Okay.
Leave that to the chair to cancel.
There's enough time between now and then.
Yes, Mr. Bernstein, can the board give the chairman the authority to cancel the 3rd in the interim if need be?
If the board would make a motion and a member of the board would second it, yes.
I'll move that. This is Frank.
Go ahead. Say it again.
I'll second for Bob Wagner.
All in favor? All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you.
Okay, with that being said, we need a motion to adjourn.
So moved. Ken Hestag?
Second, Bob Wagner.
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, we are adjourned. Thank you very much.
Mr. Bernstein, do you need the transcript?
Yep. Everybody safe and healthy rest of the summer, please.
Yes, everybody enjoy your